You know, we had a sort of a heavy relationship, my mum and dad, and I never really got on with my father. And he was absent most of my life, actually, either drunk or having some affair, just awful. And then when I became a Christian, I wanted a relationship with my dad. I wanted him back in my life. I had to track him down, which I did, and he was living in a pensioner's flat in Macclesfield on his own. You know, I thought he'd have changed like I did. He hadn't. He was grumpier, he was older, he was drinking more, he was just vulgar, crude, you know, sarcastic, and it's exactly what I remembered. And I invited him down to our house, to our home in London, and he'd get the train down and I'd meet him at Euston Station. And every time I'd meet him on the platform, I'd go and get him when he was coming off. He'd be whinging and moaning and complaining and slightly drunk. And one of the things he used to whinge about all the time was money. And then one day he came to stay and he got quite poorly and had to go to the local hospital. Ended up staying for a week. It was a nightmare. And I wanted to get him back home when he was better. So we took him to Euston Station and I put him on the train and sat him down. And right in the middle of the carriage, I had this overwhelming feeling of love for my dad, and it was really weird. And I almost started to cry in the carriage, and I looked at him and I felt really sad for him, that we'd never had a relationship. I don't ever remember eating a meal with my father. All that stuff came up for me. And in my mind came this idea to upgrade his ticket to a first-class ticket to Manchester. And I bought a very expensive single first-class ticket back to Manchester. And I walked him into the first-class compartment and I sat him down and I kissed him on the head. And as we stood on the platform, Amanda said to me, "What on earth are you doing?" I said, "You know what? I have no idea. I just really wanted to see my dad happy." And as I looked at him through the window of the carriage, I saw my father take his trilby off. He always wore a hat. Take his trilby off and put it on the table. He hit the recline button and sort of leant back in the leather seat. And then he clicked his fingers and some of the waiters brought him a cup of tea and some biscuits. And then he got his newspaper out and started to read it. And as he was doing that, he just turned to look at me out of the window. And he had the biggest smile on his face that you could ever see. It's like every birthday and every Christmas had all come together. And he was beaming. And that was the last time that I ever saw my father. 3 weeks later, he died of a massive heart attack on his own in that pensioner's flat. Now I always think, was that me just making up an idea that I thought I might buy him a ticket? Or was that God guiding me? I have a real peace with my father through all those years of arguments and fighting and drinking and womanizing and just awful stuff. The only image I've got of my father is that picture of his face looking through that railway carriage as it drove off.